My beloved child, listen carefully, for I do not say this often. Your season has been appointed, not vaguely appointed, but sealed, in a way only heaven can seal, decisive, pray, and irreversibly. You have walked through many long seasons that even you could not name, but today, I name it for you. This season is not just a new chapter. It is a realignment of your spiritual axis. A pivotal shift, a marking in the unseen realm that both darkness recognizes and the armies of heaven see clearly. You are not hearing these words by accident. I have led you into this very moment to speak with full authority. 3 spiritual waves are advancing toward your life, and when they touch you, no part of you will remain as it was before. The first wave, identity. I begin from the deepest place, not the most visible. You have lived too long, carrying fragments others have placed on you. There were moments when you carried my calling but walked with the voice of the world. There were moments when you carried my strength but lived as one drained and depleted. There were moments when you belonged to the light but saw yourself as one standing outside the door. I will not allow that to continue any longer. I send into you the first wave, the wave that awakens the true name I placed in you before you even understood the meaning of the word chosen. From this moment on, you will no longer operate by memory, emotion, or wounds. You will operate by the identity I have appointed for you. You will recognize this shift in the way you respond to everything around you. Things that once made you tremble will lose their power. Words that once pierced you will no longer sink deep. Memories that once held you hostage will lose their authority. True identity does not make you proud. It places you rightly. It does not push you upward without purpose. It positions you exactly where I formed you to stand. You will know who you are not by looking in the mirror, but by the witness of my spirit speaking within you. This is not feeling better about yourself. This is the restoration of authority written into you from the spiritual realm. And when identity is set right, everything else in your life begins to rotate on the correct axis. The second wave, provision, not shallow provision, but a complete reordering of your spiritual supply lines. You have lived for so long in the rhythm of, I must handle it, I must figure it out, I must carry it, as though you must battle and bear everything alone. I will not allow you to continue that way in this season. I am changing not only what you receive, but the very way you receive it. I open doors you could never open by your own strength. I send people you could never draw by your own effort. I remove obstacles you could not move with your shortest prayer. I do not provide according to your preferences. I provide according to the destiny I have designed for you. For what I am sending you into requires a provision you have never experienced before. You will see that my provision does not always arrive through grand events, but through orderly, precise alignments. Everything begins to straighten. What you once considered random will form into patterns, pieces I arranged long before you noticed. Those who once shut doors in your face will lose their influence. Sources that once dried up will be replaced by better ones. Opportunities that seemed gone will return in a stronger form. You will learn to trust without scrambling, to open your hands without fearing loss, to receive without feeling wrong for being cared for by your Father. And as you allow me to provide, you will find yourself lifted without straining, expanded without waiting in anxiety. The third wave, communion. I do not want the connection between you and me to remain something you reach for only when you are tired, needy, or drained. I am opening a new depth of communion, not based on emotion but on synchronization. You will begin to hear my voice, not because I speak louder, but because every other noise within you is being silenced. You will sense my guidance not through dramatic signs, but through a refined, steady peace. I will no longer lead you with forceful pushes. I will lead you with gentle rhythms. And you will recognize them the way you recognize your own heartbeat. This communion will be the place where you ignite, and the place where all these shifts are sustained. These 3 waves do not come to make you comfortable. They come to make you accurate. They use refining fire to purify the parts of you that can no longer carry the weight of the glory you are about to bear. I use unexpected situations to shave away what is unnecessary. I use timely connections to activate what has been missing. I use small hindrances to sharpen your spiritual discernment. I use strong movements to pull you away from what cannot follow you into the new season. This is not punishment, and it is not meaningless hardship. This is the refining of a vessel I am preparing to use. You are being forged, not diminished, because I do not merely want you to be healed or re-energized. I want you to be revived. Revival is not an emotional surge. Revival is the rekindling of the original fire within your soul. I will revive your boldness, your sensitivity, the purity of your motives, and the flame of your calling. Not so that you may shine for yourself, but so that you may stand as an instrument I have anointed for the harvest that is ripening upon the earth. You are not called merely to live. You are called to influence, not merely to walk, to lead, not merely to overcome, to pull others out. And I will not allow you to step into that role with the confusion of the former season still clinging to you. This is why I have appointed these 3 waves in your life, in the order, rhythm, and speed that I myself determine. Identity, so you may stand firm. Provision, so you may walk firmly. Communion, so you may remain firm. When these 3 converge, you will become the version of yourself that I have seen from eternity, the version darkness fears and light welcomes. And from this moment forward, every movement will grow deeper, clearer, and stronger. You enter this season of transformation, not as a rescued victim, but as a commissioned warrior. I want you to understand something. The 3 waves I am releasing over your life are not new to heaven. They were woven into the lives of many whom you call your spiritual brothers in the lineage of faith. I remind you of them not for the sake of storytelling, but to connect you to the stream of those who walked before you and were forged through similar fires. When you understand how vast a spiritual family you belong to, you will no longer see yourself as walking alone. You will recognize that every challenge you face has been walked through by those who came before you, long before they became useful instruments in my hand. Joseph did not step straight into the place of influence. He stepped into the pit, the prison, betrayal, and misunderstanding. Yet none of those fires reduced the provision. Each prepared him for greater provision. True provision does not come from convenience. It comes from deliberate orchestration. When Joseph was in Potiphar's house, I provided through favor. In prison, I provided through my presence. Before Pharaoh, I provided through an eruption of divine insight. I want you to understand that the provision I am leading you into does not depend on circumstance. It depends on the plan I already wrote. And just as I lifted Joseph from forgotten places into prominence, I am writing a similar story through your life. If you are walking through tight places, dark places, or unstable places, it does not mean you are on the wrong path. It means you are in the hallway of orchestration. You are more like Joseph than you realize. You carry faithfulness where you could have chosen anger. You keep your heart clean where you could have chosen resentment. You choose righteousness where you could have chosen surrender. All of these choices release my provision in ways you have not imagined. Not cheap, small, temporary provision, but structural provision designed not merely to sustain you, but to elevate you. I do not provide only for needs. I provide for destiny. And the role you are stepping into requires a form of provision that no human hand can take away. And now I tell you about Peter, the image of the 3rd wave communion. Peter was strong yet easily shaken, sincere yet easily swayed, full of love yet capable of denying me. But that is exactly what makes Peter's story essential for you, because I did not choose Peter for his perfection. I chose him for his rhythm of loving and returning. Do you see? The one I chose to lead the first harvest was not a flawless scholar, but a man with genuine communion with me. And this is what I am building in you. A communion not based on emotion, but on enduring companionship. When you are weak, I draw near. When you lose rhythm, I realign you. When you fall, I lift you. When you dim, I restore your sight. True communion is not never falling. True communion is always returning toward me. You are like Peter in this. You are genuine. You love deeply. But your emotions can also sweep you away. You carry fire. But at times, that fire leans when the winds of life blow against you. I do not blame you. I dig. I shape. I refine. I use the very moments when you waver to carve into you the strength you will need when I send you out. Peter once trembled, yet he became a rock. So will you. A rock is not hardened by chance. It is formed through pressure. I do not use pressure to break you. I use pressure to complete you. For you are being built not merely to live well, but to stand exactly where you must stand when the harvest is ripening. Those three, Gideon, Joseph, and Peter, are not just stories in a book. They are your spiritual lineage. Identity, provision, and communion are not theories. They are the very patterns I used in their lives, and I am continuing the same pattern in yours. You are not separate from the history of heaven. You belong to a line of calling, a line of choosing, a line of refining and sending, and as I did with them, never quitting, never rushing, never missing a beat, I am doing with you. Every fire you pass through is not an accident. It is evidence that you are inside heaven's process. You are not merely living. You are being refined into an anointed instrument for the ripe harvest I have set apart for you. Stand still right here and listen carefully, for I am placing my hand upon your shoulder as an unmistakable seal. It is time for you to step out. No more delay, no more hesitation, no more testing whether you are ready. If I declare you ready, then you are ready. Not based on emotion, but on the commission I have set inside your soul. You have been refined through fire, through tears, through long nights no one knows about, and every part of that has built the weight you now carry. I am no longer calling you to stand outside the story of your own life. I am calling you into its very center. You are no longer an observer. You are the one being sent. You do not need the approval of anyone, for I approved you before you even understood the word calling. And I speak now with all authority in heaven and on earth. Your moment has begun. I have seen how you endured, how you stood firm, how you refused to let go, even when your soul was so weary, it wished only to sit down and disappear. But the very places you thought were weaknesses have become the proof that you have been forged. You did not know this, but every time you chose faithfulness over bitterness, you became sharper. Every time you chose forgiveness over resentment, you became stronger. Every time you chose integrity over shortcuts, you became deeper. And now I look at you and declare, there is no reason left for you to see yourself as small. The old season has run dry. The old limits have shattered. The old burdens no longer hold authority. You are stepping into the time where everything I taught you will begin to show through the way you live, the way you speak, and the way you walk. I place my hand on your shoulder once more and say, lift your head. You have looked down long enough to forget your true stature, long enough to believe your path must stay narrow and low, long enough to think my voice belongs only to those greater than you. But no, you are the one I choose to stand in strong winds, in wide light, in the places I am opening for those who dare to trust my word above their own experience. You are not late. You are not behind. You are not in a lesser position. You are standing exactly at the intersection I planned from eternity. I have prepared the spiritual space for you to enter, and as you step forward, you will know instantly, this is where I am meant to stand. I ignite fire in you at this very moment, not a fire of excitement, but a fire that makes you understand you can no longer live dim. You will feel a rising and a deepening at the same time, as if your heart burns and rests simultaneously. That is the sign that I am strengthening your spiritual backbone. I will not let you tremble when great doors open. I place boldness into every breath. I will not let you sway when responsibility comes. I place steadiness into every step. I will not let you speak empty words. I place authority into every tone. And I will not let you see life with your old eyes. I place the light of my spirit into your vision so you can see what others overlook. You are no longer someone who hopes they might be used. You are the one I have chosen to use. Understand this with your whole heart. You are being sent as a tool that has passed through the hands of the master craftsman. Your old cracks are no longer weaknesses. I have filled them with oil and fire. Your old wounds are no longer reasons to doubt yourself. They are testimonies of healing. Your years of quiet waiting were never wasted. They form the depth you need to carry the weight of glory I entrust to you. You step out, not as someone inexperienced, but as someone bent, shaped, sharpened, and anointed. I place authority into every step you take. I place spiritual oil into every word you speak. I place healing into your very presence. And I place heavenly authority into the atmosphere that follows you. You do not merely carry a message, you carry fire. I speak with finality. You are the instrument for the harvest that is already ripe. Not for the next season. Not for the moment you feel more confident. Not for the time when everything seems perfect. But for right now, in the very moment I have appointed with the door I have chosen and the territory I have marked for your feet. You carry the word for those who are weary. You carry the light for those whose flame is nearly out. You carry the lifting strength for those who are falling. You carry discernment for those deceived by appearances. You carry healing for the hearts that no longer remember how to trust. And you carry the presence I have planted within you to shift the atmosphere of every place you enter. You are not merely used. You are my answer to a generation crying out for truth. In the coming days, you will see the transformation more clearly than ever. You will respond differently. You will sense differently. You will choose differently. You will stand differently. Not because you are trying to be different, but because my spirit is moving powerfully within the inner architecture of your being. The things that once made you panic will lose their grip. The things that once made you shrink back will fade. The things that once pulled you downward will no longer entice you. The voices that once made you tremble will become distant echoes, and you will find yourself living with a sacred confidence that does not come from achievement, but from identity awakened. When I touch you in this way, nothing can stop your steps. There are moments in your life that seemed ordinary. A morning when you woke with a heaviness in your breath. An evening when you sat quietly staring into nothing and did not know why tears wanted to fall. Or those minutes when you felt you no longer belonged to the places familiar to you. But in truth, these were the first signs of the transformation I am forming within you. Not every spiritual shift arrives like thunder. At times, it comes like a gentle breeze, yet strong enough to make you pause and whisper, "Something is changing in me." I am in those moments, even when you think they are small. When you begin to feel discomfort toward things you once tolerated, it is because I am separating you from the old layer. When people once aligned with you suddenly feel distant, it is, 2. Not because you are wrong. It is because you are being elevated into a higher realm of awareness. You are not being left behind. You are being pulled upward. And every hidden movement within you is evidence that I am working deeper than the eye can see. Do you remember the days when you felt as though you were standing between two worlds? One side was familiar, but no longer fitting. The other side was new, but not yet clear enough for you to grasp. That in-between feeling was not your mistake. It is the transitional space every person I choose must walk through. Joseph lived in that not yet place, no longer belonging fully to his father's house, yet not seated in the glory I prepared for him. Peter also had such a season, no longer merely a fisherman, yet not fully stepping into the role of the rock. Gideon too stood in that middle ground, no longer trembling, yet not fully seeing himself as a warrior. You are standing in that very space now, but do not fear. The in-between is not a sign of being lost. It is a sign that you are being moved out of the old position and prepared to be placed in the intersection where identity provis and communion converge into a new flow. I want you to recall the details of your recent days so you may see more clearly that you have changed more than you realize. When you no longer react in anger as easily as before, that is identity being healed. When you no longer strive to please someone just to be loved, that is identity being restored. When you no longer panic at bills, deadlines, or shortages, that is my provision touching the very wiring of your nervous system. When you no longer feel the need to control everything, that is communion reshaping your soul. Do you see? You do not need a grand miracle to prove that I am working. Sometimes it is as simple as waking up one morning and realizing you do not feel as heavy as last week. That is me. Sometimes it is going to bed one night without spiraling into worry as you did for months. That is also me. Sometimes it is entering a conversation without feeling less than. That is identity rising. Every small change is a brick in the foundation of the new season I am establishing within you. I also want you to know that I have been watching every subtle shift in your behavior. There were days when you chose silence instead of arguing, not because you were weak, but because you began to discern what was truly worthy of your energy. There were days when you released grudges that once weighed on you, not because you forgot, but because you were being led into a maturity that surprised even you. There were days when you looked at a crisis and no longer reacted with fear, but with calm, as if you knew deeply that I had already taken control. You thought you had simply become more composed, but in truth, that was the sign that communion was becoming instinct. Little by little, you will see that peace is no longer a feeling, but a structure growing inside you. That structure will keep you from fearing loss, lack, or the repetition of old failures. I am building within you a new stance, a stance that does not belong to panic, but to abiding. And I also see clearly the places where you are still easily wounded. There are moments so ordinary, a careless comment, a cold glance, a misunderstanding that still pierce you deeply and make you think you have not changed as much as you hoped. But do not forget, the wound is the place where I place my hand to heal, not the place where you must hide in shame. When you feel pain over something small, it is not because you are weak. It is because that place once carried a much deeper injury. Your sensitivity is not a burden. It is evidence of a tender heart. And a tender heart is where my spirit moves with greatest ease. I do not ask you to force yourself into instant strength. I ask you to let me touch every layer, every corner, every fragment you once pressed down. Healing is not forgetting. Healing is remembering without trembling, and I am leading you to that place.
In real life, you will begin to see the 3 waves I have placed upon you quietly, yet powerfully unfold. When you step into conversations that once made you anxious, and now find yourself speaking with weight and peace, that is identity. When unexpected provision arrives, when doors open without planning, when people appear at the perfect moment to carry you through a difficult stretch, that is supply. When you stand in tense situations, yet feel an unusual calm within you, as if a pure stream is flowing from deep inside, that is communion. I do not promise you a path without challenges. I promise that you will see my presence more clearly within those very challenges, and that clarity will mature you without hardening you. I want you to look back on the past years as if looking at a map lined with glowing threads. There were seasons you thought you had been forgotten, but I was pulling you out of old environments. There were moments you thought I was silent, but I was restructuring your inner foundation. There were periods you thought you were going backward, but I was preparing you to leap forward. If you look closely, you will notice that the signs of transformation have been there for a long time. The day you could no longer tolerate toxicity. The day you felt a strong urge to step out of old patterns. The day you realized you no longer resonated with things that once excited you. These are proofs that you are no longer living at the old frequency. I lifted you into a new realm long before you became aware of it. You will also begin to see how I am rewriting the internal language of your soul. The phrases you use to tell yourself, "I am not enough. I always fail. I mess things up," will begin to lose their power. Not because you are trying to think positively, but because your true identity is becoming stronger than the old narratives. I will cause you to pay attention to every word you speak. You will immediately sense when something no longer aligns with your renewed being. Your words will become fewer yet deeper, lighter yet more precise. You will know you are entering spiritual maturity when your words no longer spring from fear, but from the certainty of belonging to me. As your inner language transforms, the world around you will shift accordingly, and you will experience something profoundly beautiful. A transformation in the way you move through relationships. You will no longer cling to people who do not belong to your new season. You will no longer feel the same pain when someone fails to keep their word, misunderstands you, or cannot see your true value. You will learn to release without bitterness, to hold without fear, to be close without dependency. I am teaching you how to love without losing yourself, how to give without being drained, how to open your heart without wounding it. As you step deeper into your true identity, you will recognize which relationships I send, which were meant to teach you, and which you must walk away from in order to grow in the right direction. And through it all, you will see one common thread I am drawing nearer to your life in ways beyond explanation. Not through overwhelming emotions, but through a new stability. Not through loud miracles, but through quiet, continuous touches. Not so you depend on fleeting sensations, but so you know that I am the source of every decision, every breath, every season you walk through. I am leading you to a place where my presence is no longer something you feel in occasional moments, but becomes the atmosphere your soul lives in daily. There, peace will no longer be a reward, but a nature. And from that place you will walk light yet strong, deep yet free, gentle yet never stagnant. Thank you for listening to this message. Know this, you are not merely a viewer. You are the one chosen to dwell in the presence of God's Word every day. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a divine message. Amen.